I was 27 years old when this happened, living alone in a small rental house on the outskirts of Green Bay, Wisconsin. It was December 22nd. The temperature hadn't gone above freezing all day, and by late afternoon, snow had started coming down steadily. Not heavy, but constant. The kind that quietly erases everything beneath it. By the time I got off work, most of the street looked untouched. No tire tracks, no footprints. Just smooth white pavement under dim porch lights. Most of my neighbors had already left town for Christmas. A few of the houses nearby were completely dark. Others had lights on timers, turning on and off without anyone inside. I stayed behind because of work. I was scheduled through Christmas Eve, and traveling didn't make sense that year. I got home a little after 9 that night. The porch light was on. The front door was locked. Everything looked normal. Inside, the house was cold. I hadn't turned the heat up before leaving that morning, and the air had that sharp, stale feeling it gets when no one's been home all day. I set my keys down, hung my coat, and looked toward the living room. That's when I saw the Christmas tree. The lights were on. I stopped in the entryway. It wasn't panic right away, more confusion than anything else. The tree had been unplugged when I left that morning. I was certain of it. I had a habit of unplugging it before leaving the house, not because I was paranoid, just something my parents drilled into me growing up. I stood there for several seconds, trying to remember if I had broken that habit. The lights weren't steady. They were blinking, slowly, evenly. I didn't own blinking lights. I walked closer and knelt down by the outlet. The plug was pushed in all the way. The cord ran behind the tree exactly how I remembered arranging it. I told myself I must have forgotten. That explanation was uncomfortable, but it was still logical. I walked through the rest of the house. The bathroom was untouched. The bedroom looked the same as it had that morning. The spare room was empty, like always. Every window was locked. I even checked the back of the house, stepping carefully through the snow. There were no footprints near the windows, no signs that anyone had been there. When I went back inside, I noticed something under the tree. One of the presents had been moved. It wasn't opened. It wasn't damaged. It had been rotated slightly, angled outwards so it faced the couch. I remembered placing it against the wall that morning, tucked behind the others so it wouldn't get knocked over. I stood there, staring at it, trying to picture myself moving it. I couldn't. That night, I didn't go to bed. I sat on the couch with every light in the house on, watching the tree from across the room. I kept the TV on low, more for background noise than anything else. Nothing else happened. No sounds, no movement, no changes. The next morning, I unplugged the tree before leaving for work. I made sure the cord was completely disconnected. I even took a picture of it on my phone just to reassure myself. I came home the next evening around the same time. The porch light was on. The door was locked. When I stepped inside, the living room was lit. The Christmas lights were on again. That was the moment the situation stopped feeling like a mistake. I didn't touch anything. I didn't check the rest of the house. I walked back outside and called the police. They arrived about 15 minutes later, 2 officers. They went through the house room by room, checked the windows, checked the locks, walked the perimeter. There were no signs of forced entry. One of the officers asked me if anyone else had a key. No one did. Before they left, one of them said something that stayed with me. He said if someone was inside, they didn't break in. I didn't argue with him. I unplugged the tree that night. 2 days later, on Christmas Eve, I noticed something else. The Christmas lights was still off, but one of the ornaments was missing. I never found it. I moved out before New Year's. Two winters ago, I flew home for Christmas to stay with my parents. They live in a large 2-story house with an extra guest room downstairs that nobody ever uses. It's always cold in there for some reason, even with the vents open. We had relatives staying over that year. my uncle, aunt, and their son, so I slept upstairs while they took the guest room. On the first night, around 3 a.m., I woke up thirsty and went downstairs for water. As I passed the guest room, I noticed the door slightly open. A dim light was coming from inside. I assumed my uncle left the lamp on, so I knocked softly and said, "Everything okay?" No answer. I pushed the door open a little more. The bed was made perfectly. The lamp was on, and nobody was inside. I went back upstairs, thinking maybe they had stepped out to use the bathroom. But as I reached the top of the stairs, I saw the hallway bathroom light was off. Every other room was dark. They were all asleep. The next morning, I asked my uncle if they had gotten up during the night. He said they never left the room. I mentioned the lamp being on. He said he turned it off before bed. Even he demonstrated the switch because the wiring was loose. That night, I slept with my door cracked open. Around 2:40 a.m., I heard movement downstairs. Soft footsteps walking from the kitchen toward the guest room. Not heavy enough to be my uncle, not light enough to be my little cousins, just steady, slow pacing. I listened. The footsteps paused at the guest room door, then the lamp clicked on. No footsteps going in, just the click. I went downstairs again, but this time I didn't call out. I just watched from the living room corner. The guest room door was half open. The lamp was on. The bed was empty. But the worst part wasn't the room. It was the staircase behind me. Halfway up the stairs, someone was standing in the dark. Not moving, not speaking, just standing still, like they'd been watching me the whole time. I turned on a light quickly. Nobody was there. I checked every room. Everyone was asleep. The next morning, I told my parents everything. My mom said something she probably shouldn't have. Before they bought the house, the guest room used to be a live-in caretaker's bedroom. He was elderly, and he passed away the year before they moved in. He had a habit of turning on that lamp every night at the same time. They never told us because they didn't want the room to feel creepy. That would have been unsettling enough, but Christmas Eve was worse. Around the same time, 2:49 a.m., every light downstairs flickered on for a split second, then off. The lamp in the guest room stayed on. When I checked the hallway camera footage the next morning, we noticed something that made all of us go pale. At exactly 2:39 a.m., the camera caught the silhouette of a man standing at the bottom of the stairs, not walking, not entering through any door, just there. One frame later, the very next timestamp, he was gone, but the lamp turned on at that exact second. My parents moved the guest room furniture a month later and turned it into storage. Even then, the lamp still turns on at 2:40 a.m. every so often, and every Christmas, the camera catches the same silhouette on the stairs, always facing the guest room, always still, always waiting. I've only talked about this once, and the person I told didn't believe me. It happened 3 Christmases ago, the night before Christmas Eve, when I was house-sitting for my aunt in northern Idaho. She lived alone, and the house sat close to the tree line with no neighbors on either side. It was the kind of place where you notice every noise because normally there aren't any. Around 11:45 p.m., I heard someone outside calling a name. Not mine, a name I had never heard before. The voice was low and steady, coming from the direction of the porch. I froze because whoever it was didn't knock. They didn't ring the bell. They didn't even try the handle. They just kept repeating this name over and over in a tone that sounded like they were talking to someone standing right next to them. I looked through the peephole. No one was there, but the voice continued. Same distance, same tone, like they were speaking through a wall that didn't exist. I checked the side windows. Again, nothing, just the dark porch and the snow. The voice kept calling the name for almost a full minute until it suddenly stopped. No footsteps walking away, no crunch of snow, just immediate silence. I tried to convince myself it was someone drunk walking down the road, but there was no road on that side of the house, only forest. And then, around 12:30, it happened again. This time, they used my aunt's name. But what bothered me most wasn't the fact they said her name. It was the way they said it. Slow, calm, like they already knew she was inside. I looked out again. Still nothing. A few minutes later, the voice came from behind the house, then from the side, then from the porch again. Always the same volume, always the same calm tone. Never closer, never farther. As if the person wasn't walking, just appearing in different places. By 1 a.m., I called my aunt. She didn't answer. I called again, voicemail. I considered calling the police, but what would I say? There's a calm man politely asking for people who aren't here? Around 1:20, I heard tapping at the window near the dining room. 3 slow taps, then silence. I didn't move. The tapping came again, same rhythm, but at the kitchen window this time. And again at the bedroom window. Whatever was outside wasn't moving like a normal person. There were no footsteps, just the tapping, shifting locations too fast. Around 2 a.m., my aunt finally called me back. I told her everything. There was a long pause before she spoke. She said, "Don't answer the door. Don't talk back. They're looking for someone who used to live in that house." I asked, "Who?" She said she didn't know the name, but every few years around Christmas, someone came around asking for him. Her late husband used to hear it too, but always ignored it. She told me, if you don't engage, they eventually stop. I hung up and waited. At 2:17 a.m., the voice called the same unknown name one last time. Then everything went silent for the rest of the night. In the morning, I checked the snow for footprints. There weren't any. But there were finger marks on the window panes, long streaks across the glass, like someone had been tracing the edges with bare hands in sub-zero temperatures. My aunt sold the house the following spring. The new owners moved in that summer. That December, they lasted 1 week before putting the house back on the market. They didn't say why. But on the neighborhood Facebook page, the wife asked a single question. Does anyone else hear a man outside at night calling names that don't belong to anyone here?